All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lee Schwartz, and I'm the Director of Business Development here at SVA Certified Public Accountants. I'd like to welcome you to our webinar today, where we will be unveiling the insights from our fifth annual dental salary and benefit survey. So our presenters have a lot of information to cover, so I don't want to take up too much time, but before we jump in, I just want to take a sec and say a few words about SVA and our history working with dentists. We have been around now more than 50 years, and throughout all of those years, we've been working with dentists. And I think one of the main reasons we've made it this long is because of our consistent goal of remaining independent. And by helping dental practices with profitability, growth, and overall business strategy, we help position them to remain independent as well. Our mindset is that when you're a practice owner or shareholder, you have to work with someone who's more than just an accountant or a tax preparer. You need someone who's working collaboratively with you as an advisor. So information like what we're about to present here today is just one example of how we do that. So just real quick, a quick note about the information we're about to share. As you can imagine, the more practices that participate in this survey, the better the survey data is. So only those practices are going to receive the full 30-page results. If you didn't participate this year, and I guess let me just remind you, please participate next year. But if you didn't participate this year, reach out to me directly and we can talk about how you can receive the full results. But the long and short of it is, if we can get a verbal commitment from you that you'll participate next year, if we can have just a quick chat, we would still be open to sharing it. But if not, you can always download the briefer version from our website, which will be up there soon. As far as this webinar goes, we're going to try and save a couple minutes at the end for some questions, but no guarantee. We have a lot of ground to cover. If you do have a question and it doesn't get answered, we'd be happy to reach out to you and provide that question through a phone call or a Teams meeting, whatever it might be. All right, so let me stop wasting time with having my face on the screen. We've got two of the most experienced people from our healthcare and dental practice to walk you through everything today. We've got Laura Zock and James or JD Emmerich. They are both partners here and have been involved in working with dental practices for, I don't know, guys, more than 20 years. So they work with practice owners and shareholders on efficiency, tax, and profitability strategies. So again, without any further ado, let's get it started. Laura, you want to jump right in?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, thanks, Lee, for the introduction. And I won't admit how long I've been here, but you're right. It's over 20 years, and I guess I've got
So.
gray hair to show it. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and just really quickly cover our main objectives for the day. We're going to set the stage with some high-level trends and some observations going on in the industry. We're going to do a dive into the survey data as well. As Lee has mentioned, we've got a ton of information to share with you today, and a lot of good information for you to visit on with your salaries. And then also we're going to have some tips and next steps for you as well. So moving into some of the trends that we're seeing going on in the dental industry is there's a bit of skepticism and uncertainty with what's going on in the economy. And I don't think that's at all specific to dental. It's kind of what's going on right now. There's a lot with the political environment that just lends itself to, we're not really sure where things are going. There are some positives, maybe some negatives in what's going on. But overall, there's just concerns about the political effects of tariffs, of legislation that's coming out. People are keeping an eye on what's going on with employment in their areas and just kind of wondering, scratching their heads a bit out there, wondering what those effects might be on local economies, but also what that means for demand for dental services as well. So folks are keeping an eye on that. In terms of practice overhead, we continue to see costs increase there, and we're seeing that compounding effect of multiple years where overhead costs have increased at rates that are higher than reimbursement increases, if there have been much for reimbursement increases at all. So a big component of practice overhead costs, obviously, is our main topic of today. It's what you're paying for your employees. And CPI has been running around 3%. If you think back to some of the increases you've had to give your staff over the last few years, those are on average higher than CPI. Recent CPI, 3%. So We continue to look at ways that we created around employment costs, but also what other costs can we control with overhead. There are some good group purchasing organizations out there now that we're starting to hear more about in the dental industry that are saving some of our dental clients and some substantial funds on supplies. So that's something to consider and check out there as well. Next up is insurance issues and the continued downward trends on collection percentages. I don't think this is new to anyone. We always encourage our clients to reach out to their main providers and ask, not providers, but insurers that they're in network with and talk about ways to see if they can get anything in place. But we're also seeing dental practices evaluate who they are in network with and think about what does that look like going forward in their practice. So something to keep an eye out there as well. We're also seeing decreased borrowing rates for practices when you do have some equipment needs or maybe updates to your practice, to your building. That's because the Fed has, when they've met the last couple of times, given 25 basis point reductions to interest rates. So we are seeing some lower lending rates, which is great for practices that are looking to grow, update, or expand. And then we're also looking at what is that demand for dental care. The Health Policy Institute always puts out a quarterly report on what that demand for dental care looks like, as well as some great trends in the dentistry industry as well. And they're reporting that consumer dental spending was up 4% year to date through August. So that's a pretty solid number there. But then I think if we think about what might that look like in the future, my mind goes back to that skepticism and uncertainty that some folks are experiencing on their thoughts about the economy. And while the population is aging, while there's always a need for dental care, I think what we might see if unemployment increases, or maybe loss of some benefits or safety nets in our marketplaces, that might lead to some decreased spending in the dental care industry. But food for thought, we'll see where that goes. We did something a little different with our practice survey this year. We added a couple questions to ask you all what you are seeing and feeling in your practices, what's keeping you up at night, etc., for some general market trends specific to you all participating, and we're so happy that we did. One of the questions that we asked was around what are your top strategic goals for the next 1 to 3 years, and there's definitely some that are focused around growth. 68% of practices are wanting to look at ways that they can grow their practice over the next few years. Some considering expanding new services as well. But the other two top ones here were around increasing operational efficiency. 4 to 10 of you want to find ways to be more operationally efficient in your practices. And then another big one here is recruiting new associates or new team members. And that's where JB and I are confident that you'll have at least a few takeaways from our time together today with some great salary survey data that should help make that job a little bit easier for you. The next question we asked is, are you currently planning or considering any of the following? And there's two main themes here in the results. One is around growth and one is around transitioning. You can see on your screen here, 21% of practices are looking at renovating or expanding their facility. 25% are considering hiring an associate. And then on the transitioning side, a number of practices, 20% are considering transitioning their ownership or looking at their succession planning, which means money. That might mean an offer for an associate to be an owner. And a small percent, 3%, considering looking at selling out to DSO or another. So some interesting trends there in our marketplace. And then we wanted to touch a bit on what's keeping you all up at night. And our next question was around what causes the most professional stress or frustration. And I don't think there's any surprise to this result here. It is staffing and hiring, 52%. So that's what that keeps you up at night. So hopefully today's webinar will give you some great information that you can then use to hopefully take a bit of that burden off your shoulders as you work to make sure that your employees are paid fairly, paid properly, rewarded for what they do, seeing the value that they add to your practice, and hopefully help your practice recruit and retain its employees as well. Our last general question that we asked was, where do you feel most financially uncertain right now? And I think these top items here are not surprising at all. I touched on this a little bit in my first slides on trends in the marketplace, but insurance reimbursement always an uncertainty there, right? We keep increasing our fees every year, but it's not a given that our insurance reimbursements will increase as well. And then rising overhead or inflation. And then the third one on there being staff compensation, what do we pay our people? So at this time, I'm going to let us start getting into the data. I'm going to turn it over to JD, who's going to start getting into the details on what the survey results were.
All right, thank you, Laura. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As Lee and Laura both mentioned, there's a lot of topics to discuss, so we're going to kind of dive into the data. So, few quick takeaways. Largest wage increase went to the experienced staff. This follows a trend. A couple years ago, it was going to the new hires, and the last couple of years now, that's kind of shifted, and it's gone back to the experienced staff. So, that's good to see. South Central Wisconsin remains the highest paying region. Some of the benefits, we ask questions on benefits, and you can see implementation of retirement plans is starting to increase, so that's wonderful. It's another way to differentiate yourself from other practices. Sign-on bonuses are starting to become uncommon, and retention bonuses are down sharply. And 77% of you raised your patient fees, an average of 4%. We always encourage our clients to look at their fee schedule once at a minimum, maybe twice a year. Make sure you're in the market range, so always look at your fee schedule. And then staffing and hiring remain the biggest challenge, and practice growth is the top strategic goal. So we had 127 participating practices in our survey this year. A lot of the concentration you can see on the map on your screen is from South Central, Southeastern, and Northeastern Wisconsin. We had over 1,800 full-time equivalent employee data gathered, and that's what we're going to report on here today. So really exciting to share the results. From a practice specialty standpoint, you can see general dentistry, leader in the clubhouse. It's not even close. We had 88% of our participants be general dentists. Practice region, it's very mixed all throughout the state. Northeastern at about 16%, South Central 29%, 30% in Southeastern, and then other outside of those three regions about 24%. That bar graph or pie graph there is very well dispersed and spread out. When we're talking about Northeastern Wisconsin, we are talking about the Fox Valley and Green Bay areas. South Central is the Madison and surrounding Madison areas, and then Greater Milwaukee is Southeastern. From a practice size perspective, most of our respondents, or the majority of them, about 56%, are anywhere within the 10 or fewer range. So the 5 or fewer all the way up to 10. That basically takes the cake of most of the participants in our survey results. 10 to 15, 18%, 15 to 25, 15%. So there's good disbursement all throughout. From a practice size annual revenue perspective, we have less than $1 million at about 20%. And then our sweet spot here is about $1 million to $3 million at 62%. So 80% of all participants of the 127 practices participating are just within the $1 to $3 million threshold, up to $3 million threshold. So we do have a lot of variety here, a lot of great practices that give us data, so we can't thank you enough for that. Okay, what did we do? So we took the salary data and we carved it up, we sliced it and diced it. We created 3 buckets based on experience. We have 0 to 3 years, 4 to 9 years, and then we have 10 plus years. And we asked, what is the average hourly rate for each full-time equivalent in those buckets? We did not get the specific individual's hourly rate, but again, we got the average for each full-time equivalent. Looking at front desk and receptionists, I'm going to live in the middle column there for the averages. You can see 0 to 3 was about $22.96, all the way up to about $27.98 for somebody with 10 or more years. The biggest change that we saw from the previous year was the 4 to 9 year range. Last year it was sitting at around $23.88, so it's up about 6% in that 4 to 9 year range. And over the last 2 years, we've seen a pretty hefty jump in the 10 plus years. Overall, cumulatively, it's been about 10% increase over the last 2 years. And then the 4 to 9 years, it's also up at about 10%. So that is certainly driving the pain that a lot of you are feeling when you want to talk about controlling your staff costs, controlling your overhead. In the last 2 years alone, you're starting to feel it. And these numbers, as we go through these slides, will certainly reiterate what you're feeling. Schedulers, same thing. You're running an average of $22.29 up to almost $27. The biggest jump here was in the 0 to 3 year range, that's all about a 7.75% jump. And over the last 2 years, the winner by far has been the 4 to 9 year range, which is up about 14%. Schedulers for those with 10 plus years, it's been pretty stagnant. In fact, we saw a drop from last year. Last year was averaging about $28.05, and now it's down to $27. And the year before that, it was $26.45. So not a lot of growth for 10 plus years in schedulers. Treatment coordinators, 0 to 3, 26, we'll call it $25.75, all the way up to about $29 for the 10 plus years. This one, similar trend, 0 to 3 for the current year. That's all about a 12% jump. Over the last 2 years, the biggest jump again sitting in that 4 to 9 year bucket, where we saw wages go from $24.59 in 2023 up to $25.23 in 2024, and now it's up to $26.34 in the current year. So again, everything seems to be moving up and up, as most of you are feeling. Business office and managers, ranging from $34.36 up to about $41.10. The biggest jump here is the 10 plus years. Last year at this time, we said the average for somebody with 10 plus years was about $36 an hour. You can see it's all the way up to $41. That's a 13% spike. Okay. When we look at the last 2 years, the number is a little worse. It's almost 20% at 19.5%. We went from $34.38 all the way up to $41.10. So that's about a 20% jump. 4 to 9 years has seen a big jump as well, up about 12% from 2023. 0 to 3 years, it's certainly jumped, just not as drastic. It's up about 4%. Okay. Office assistants and filing clerks, $22.68 all the way to the max, or 10 plus years of $27.31. Which one's taking the cake? That would be the 10 plus years for this group. They've seen a spike of about 4.5%. When you look over the last 2 years, it's a toss-up between those with 10 plus years of experience and 0 to 3 years of experience. Both are right around 13% growth from the last 2 years. The 4 to 9 year range saw a drop actually this year of about 0.5%. And over the last 2 years, it's basically been flat. So real no change for those with 4 to 9 years of experience. Okay, dental hygienist, probably the slide most of you have been waiting for. Averages, 0 to 3, $44.82, 4 to 9, $46.56, 10 plus years, $45.23. How does that compare to the year before? 5% jump for the 0 to 3 group from last year. They were $42.72. Now you're up to about $45. The 4 to 9 group jumped about 7.5%. You went from $43.35 up to about $46. 10 plus years, not as much jump, about 2.75%, going from $44, basically 44 flat, up to the $45.25. And over the last 2 years, those with 0 to 3, 5.6% jump. The 4 to 9 year range is up about 15.5%, and those with 10 or more years up about 11%. Okay. So those are the averages. You can certainly see the maximums, 68, 75, 55. Those numbers are real. We have clients who are paying $75 an hour for hygienists. Okay. So when you're out there and you look at those maximums, that is certainly a real number. And you feel that straight into your pocket and into the bottom line. So dental assistants, the averages for 0 to 3, $22.09, all the way up to somebody with 10 or more years of 20, we'll call it $28. The biggest jump here, they've been pretty consistently flat for the year, but the 10 plus years is the winner, up about 2% from last year. Everybody else, the 4 to 9 and 0 to 3, was pretty flat. In fact, the 0 to 3 range dropped about 0.5%. In 2023, though, we saw large jumps, so it's kind of stabilized a little bit. We were to look at the 2 year change. Somebody with 10 plus years had about an 8.5% increase from where we were 2 years ago, and somebody with 4 to 9 about 9% increase. So this year has stabled off, but the year prior we've kind of seen the jump. So hopefully things are starting to calm down from the dental assistant side. Employed and associate dentist. So we've asked this question a little bit differently this year. Historically, we have shown these numbers by an hourly rate, and this year we have more of a salary or a year-to-date annual number. It is important to note there's some disclaimers on the side of that sheet or that page there. Base pay excludes any production bonuses, and this is for all associates and all practices that participated. So it's not just general dentists, it is general and specialty. So you can see the maximums by themselves, 375, 500, 500. There's a lot of variation in there. So take these numbers that are being shown with a grain of salt. Very dependent on skill set, ability, your specialty. We did go behind the scenes and try to break this down. Historically, we've presented this. We've taken the hourly and then we tried to convert it to an annual wage. This year, we're giving you the annual wage. So if we were to try to break this down hourly, we've taken a 4-day work week, 8 hours a day, 50 weeks a year. So about 1,600 hours in a year, 187,991 divided by the 1,600 hours is roughly $117.50 per hour for somebody in the 0 to 3 range. Same calculation for someone in the 4 to 9 range shakes out to be about $121. And somebody with 10 or more years, that shakes out to roughly $141.32. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Laura so she can cover some of the incentives and benefit packages. Laura.
Thanks, JD. We're going to transition a little bit away from base compensation and talk a little bit about production bonuses for your associates. Because about 50% of practices are paying their associates something above that fixed wage or that base salary. What we're seeing in terms of bonus percentages, it's often on what collections are in the bank from that associate's hands-on work. The low for this group was 23%. The high for this group was 38%. But really where it averages in, there is in that 31% of net collections or net production for associate bonuses. A couple other things on the overall comp and benefits package for associates. We asked the question about how many weeks of paid vacation do you offer your full-time associate dentist. This range was huge as well, anywhere from 0 to 15 weeks per year. Obviously, that 15 is a pretty big outlier. That was only one practice that reported that. But the averages that we saw in there were a lot of responses about 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, 4 weeks off were the most common responses. And that, of course, is not inclusive of the time off that associates are given for their continued dental education as well. Most practices are offering somewhere from 2 to 5 days of time off for continuing dental education. And that range of amount that practices are willing to reimburse dentists for their continuing education is anywhere from $100 on the low side to $6,500 on the high side. But really, if we looked at range, most of it is in between that $2,500 and $5,000 mark there as well. So hopefully some useful information for you overall on associates when you think about your comp and benefits plan for them. And by any means, if you want to do a deeper dive, we can certainly help you construct a comp bonus plan for your associates. Next up, we're going to talk about bonuses for dental hygienists. And this was a question that we recently started asking in our survey. Last year, we had 21% say yes, that they offer their dental hygienist bonus plan. And this year, we're up to 25%. So we're seeing practices embrace paying their dental hygienists on a production or bonus basis of some sort, more than we have in the past. And the bonus plan, it all depends on their overall comp package. We're seeing some ranges associated with that we have up on the screen, but really you gotta take a step back and take it all into account so that you're making sure that the full benefits and compensation plans is what's within market there. All right, now talking about benefits, what are the trends that we're seeing in benefits that practices are offering to their employees? One big change that we saw this year was in health insurance. Last year when we polled you all, about 56% of practices responded that they offered their employees health insurance. We saw an 11% decrease in practices offering health insurance down to 50%. So I thought that was an interesting result of the survey or feedback from the survey. And also dental insurance itself was down about 10%. Where are we seeing increases? When I take a step back and think about it, it's in practices maybe trying to offer some unique benefits, some that not every practice offers in order to set themselves apart, as we saw increases in the offerings of short-term disability insurance. And then also way down at the bottom, and the increase in employee assistance programs, EAP programs, to help support our employees with their mental and overall wellness. In terms of profit sharing plan, we saw more practices this year embracing retirement plans that compared to in the past. It went up from about 90% to 95% of practices offering retirement plans. I think this is something that practices certainly have had to embrace and have even more so in the last year. Obviously, a major benefit that you can offer your employees. About 72% of practices that offer retirement benefits do have a 401k plan, so a plan where your employees can put some of their own wages in to save for retirement. Then they're also incorporating either a match or a profit sharing component on top of that. Most practices we see in terms of what kind of profit sharing are they offering tends to be in the 2 to 4%, maybe with an average of 3%. And then a lot of plans do offer a safe harbor match of some sort as well, and that tends to be at that 3 to 4%. We asked a few questions around sign-on bonuses. Our practice is offering sign-on bonuses for assistants, hygiene, and or associate dentists. And this year, 18% of practices responded yes. This is down quite a bit from 2024, where 27% of practices said yes. So we're seeing both a trend downward in practices offering sign-on bonuses. We're also seeing a shrinking of the amount of sign-on bonuses that are being offered. Last year's 2024 hygiene top of the range of sign-on bonuses was $15,000 with an average of $3,700 for signing bonus. This year, we're seeing that range top out at $6,000 and the average being about $3,500. We're seeing similar trends with associate sign-on bonuses as well. Last year, the top of the associate range was $25,000 with an average of $11,500. This year, we're seeing the top of the range being $15,000 with an average of $12,000. And we asked the question around wage increases. What is the average percentage increase you're planning on giving your employees this year? As in with years past, it's all over the board. This year was 0 to 30%. What I want you to keep in mind here is, obviously each practice is very individual in their thoughts around this. And, they're looking at where they are compared to market or other things that are affecting them when they think about what wage increases that they're giving their staff this year. But overall, when we compile that data, the average is turning out to be about a 4% increase. Another question that we've keyed in on the last couple of years has been a bonus retention program. And do you periodically pay out bonuses that are meant to retain your staff? Another trend here is that we're seeing the retention bonuses go down in popularity in terms of practices offering them. This year, 13% of practices said yes, we're periodically staff, which is down quite a bit from last year's 40% that answered yes to this question. We also asked the question around if we offer it, who are the positions that are eligible for it? 47% of practices are doing one for their business or office manager, 73% for hygiene, 80% for assistants. Nothing for associates this year, at least in the pool of you all that responded to our surveys, and the front desk receptionist, all of your admin support team, about 67%. So that's where that shakes out there. As you consider whether or not a bonus retention plan would be appropriate for you to offer your people. And last but not least, in terms of actual survey results, did you increase your patient fees this year? 77% of responding practices said that they did, and these fee increases range anywhere from 1 to 10%, with the average increase being 4%. All right, it's 12:29. We're getting close to landing this plane. We just shared a whole bunch of information with you. I'm going to turn it back to JD one last time for just some overall tips and next steps for you to think about.
All right, thank you, Laura. I will try to go fast to make sure we land timely. So tips and next steps. So we've presented a lot of data. What do you do with it? How do you move forward with what SVA has given you? Well, take a look. How do you stack up? How does your compensation, how do your benefits stack up? Where could you improve? Consider things that are unique or special that your practice does. What sets you apart? However, it is important to consider and keep in mind that this is only one data set. This is not the holy grail. Go out there, do some of your own research. Make sure, if you're going to move the needle on some of your compensation, make sure it makes sense for you and your practice. And then, another tip, if you have a rock star, you don't want to lose that individual, right? So that may be the special case where you say, okay, we got to get this person in line with market rates. You really don't want to lose somebody that you can count on and that does great quality work. Educate your staff on total benefits and compensation. Staff see a paycheck and that's what they see. The money that hits their bank, that's real to them. What they may not notice or pay attention to are those things that are behind the scenes that you're still paying for. So, during your annual reviews, sit down with your staff, go through and present to them the entire compensation package, right? Show, here's what we're paying. This is the practices portion of the health insurance. Here's the benefits. Here's the retirement. All in, this is what we're putting in for you. This is what you mean to us, right? Try to really help them understand everything you're doing for them. And then lastly, revisit and refresh your recruitment and retention activities. Talk to your staff. What's important to them? What's not as important to them? Where can you change? What are things that are easily changed that probably don't cost you some money? Culture is a real big thing, right? Have conversations with them. How can you differentiate yourself? Conduct stay interviews. What keeps you here? What keeps you happy? And those people that are leaving, conduct those exit interviews. What could we have done to keep you? What really drove you to leave our practice? Just anything that you can do to start moving your practice in the right direction. Okay. Lee, I'm going to turn it back over to you. We're a minute over time already, but I will let you wrap it up and take us home.
We are a minute over, but I got to tell you, that's pretty impressive for how much information you just went through. The over under was like 10 minutes over. So I think you guys did great. I would bet on it if I could. So here's the thing. We don't have enough time to go through. We got a few questions that came in. We don't have enough time to go through. We do want to be respectful of everybody's time. But as we're wrapping up, if you do want to chat in a question, we can reach back out to you with at least whatever information we can provide if you do have questions about it. We, of course, would never share any information that would identify an individual practice. But if there are general questions and trends, we can certainly try to answer those as well. But I just want to remind everybody, if you participated in the survey, you will receive the full results soon. There's still some final edits being done to the final document, so our expectation is that'll go out next week. You can read that at the Thanksgiving dinner table, or as the tryptophan kicks in, you can just page through that. But if you didn't participate and you want to receive the full 30-page report, please reach out to me and we can discuss how to get that to you. But basically, as I mentioned before, if we can just have a quick chat and you'll commit to doing it next year, we would be happy to provide it to you. If not, you can always download the briefer executive summary version from our website when it's on there. And as we wrap up, I just want to point everybody to sva.com/dental series. That's where you'll see recordings of our past dental webinars and our upcoming ones. So we've got a couple coming up. One is on December 17th. The topic there is investing in vacation rentals, opportunities and risks for dental professionals. Then on January 20th, the topic is going to be maximizing the value of your dental practice. Lastly, we have a page set up for everything you need to know as it relates to the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Hopefully you've seen some of our webinars and stuff on that as well. That's sva.com/OBBA, OBBBA. But, here we are. It's almost Thanksgiving time. We're right in the middle of tax planning season, and OBBA has changed a lot of things for a lot of people. So if you don't have a strategic advisor helping you with tax planning right now, let's talk and let's figure out how we can make sure that you maximize everything that you can do at this point in time. So I want to thank everybody for attending. I want to thank JD and Laura for all the work that goes into this. I know our team puts in a lot of effort here, so hopefully you all appreciated the information. We appreciate you being here, and we hope you have a great rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.